What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Hey yo, it is once again the KSC and happy fucking birthday to us. We are back 1 year on. First episode recorded in this studio, in Damn Studios as it was known at the time. Jeez, that would have been, it would have dropped the 22nd of February 2022 because it had loads of twos in it.
Oh, doesn't time go quickly these days?
Yeah, 1 year on, and I brought back the original OG first guest. It is Mr. Rory Diamond.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. How are you doing? You're all right there?
I'm feeling good, man. I
You're
am
right,
feeling
Kinell.
good. Yes, I am.
Good. What's been happening then? Tell me.
Well, there's a lot, but first of all, be sure to check our new series, Adventure Rhyme, on Don't Flop. First two episodes. The weed event and the tattoo event both went down. We're filming another one somewhere in a location very cool, close to Chester soon. That's going to be popping off in April. We've got a lot going on. Be sure to check them. My battle from the King of the Smokers event, the drinking battle, is out now on Battle Rap Daily. Did you see that?
Yeah, man. I was quite impressed, actually.
It was a lot of very big shots of very cheap vodka, man. So if you've ever seen me fucking up a battle, bear in mind, you just saw me, like, there's visual evidence of me putting away, like, 26, 27 big shots of vodka in 10 minutes and getting 3 rounds off clean. So if you've ever seen me fucking up, just know what's going on when I did fuck up.
Good, man.
But yeah, that's been popping off. But other than that, it's just been the KSC all day. Yeah, man.
Finger licking good, eh?
Yeah. It's
vodka drinking good.
Yeah, man. Oh, we back in here. We back in the studio, man. And how's your whole year been, man?
How's my year been? Very interesting, I'd say. Very interesting, transformative year. Lots of changes this year, I think. You know, this whole sort of post-COVID thing. What are we going to do now that we have this whole new world that we can live in? You know, the paranoia seems to have dropped a few notches now, which is good. Slightly less of the anti-vax nutter brigade shouting too much.
It means I could get back to saying like anti-vax stuff just because it's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm so sorry. I just do love saying stuff like that sometimes, but I always like dropping references to like conspiracies and stuff into my battles and my raps and stuff. But when there's like large far-right movement shouting the same thing, you can't really do it, man. Like flipping COVID ruined conspiracy theories for ages, man.
Yeah, and I just find it funny, isn't it, as well? Some people going, it's not funny. Sorry, no, what you're saying there, no, it's not funny. This is serious, this. Yeah. People are dying.
Yeah.
But now, now we can kind of laugh a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Deaths are still there. People are just still dying, but they're just dying from different things now, not COVID.
Yeah.
Or vaccines.
Yeah, a bit of variation in it. Like, it's like, what should we call it? Nowadays, everyone's dying because the NHS is like drastically underfunded, and
that's it. I'm up for it. I like all this general strike thing. I think everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter if you're quite content with your pay. I think you should just strike anyway. Let's all just do it, just for the lols. Like it'd be ace. Everyone just let's all just take Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off.
Yeah.
Everyone all together. Just put your feet up. Stay at home, have a cup of tea.
Yeah. Don't
bother with work. Why bother? Just all if we all do it, and we could bring down a government by having a cup of tea on a bicky.
This is it. Like I'm liking this atmosphere of fighting back that's in the air, because it's like benefiting me. Like flipping. I mean, like I don't mention where I worked on here, but suffice to say, I work very hard. And man still broke. But our work have recently been like. They've been kind of jumping over themselves to kind of like nip it in the bud before anyone starts talking about strikes, and that's been taking the form of like pay rises and this sort of thing. Like, so like it's one of those. So like I haven't even done any striking, but the atmosphere that striking is in the air, and like people are fighting back is flipping. It's certainly benefiting me, and it's probably benefiting you. It's benefiting most people watching. Like, so we might be bitching about like missing trains and things, but shout out Mick Lynch. He's got things running.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see some good old fashioned plain speaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
An interesting thing, and I don't really mind where your politics lie as you watch this, but I have to say I have noticed something happening in this country which we've never really had before, but the Americans have had it since the 1950s, which is socialism is a dirty word now. You're not allowed to say that you're a socialist without it being like some like guilty thing or automatically aligned to some extreme left-wing view. Automatically you're a trot, or you're a communist, or you're just some radical lefty. And it's just ridiculous, just like the idea that, wanting society, social status for everyone to be better is now this kind of like sort of extreme view, and it's gradually crept in. And what I like about Mick Lynch is he is the first, I hope, of a whole new breed of people now who are saying, no, I'm a socialist. I want better for the people I represent. I want better for people generally. And I don't think he's wrong at all. And it's so refreshing to hear someone. I mean, I'm not fully into his thing because he supported Brexit, but and I'm very anti-Brexit, because again, I just can't see how it benefit him. And I think we're seeing the results of it. Have you had any fruit and veg this week? Have you had any leeks or anything like that? Tomatoes? No, I mean, so it's like just these little things. Anyway, what I'm saying is like I quite like the idea of vegetable socialism.
Yeah.
We should be allowed to have our vegetables. We should be all free and equal to buy turnips.
Oh, hell yeah. Fucking Mr. Diamond.
So yeah, but I feel like we're seeing parallels to the dying days of the last Conservative government, where they were really dying on their arse, where they would go back to like 92 or whatever, and they really started dying on their arse. I mean, I know Labour didn't come into power until 1997, but about 92, that's when you started seeing them getting engulfed in scandal, and then starting to pass really stupid laws to try and restrict people's protest and stuff like that. And then people start to get really narked by it. But equally as much, you saw an absolute explosion of creativity, and that was we're talking music and film. Yeah. If you think by 1994, you've got things like Pulp Fiction coming out, which changed the course of cinema, whether we like it or not. I really feel it was at that time we saw this sort of massive shift, because we just didn't trust politicians. We just didn't, we weren't able to speak freely, and we were being restricted, and everyone was on their arse. Dead arse poor, and but at the same time, I think that sort of forces people to overcome and become more creative. And I'm not saying we should be poor all the time, but I'm not saying we should be fat and lazy all the time either. Yeah, I just think that certain periods in history, and I think we are into one now where we've hit the low. I hope we've hit the low. But from here, I hope things start moving upwards and seeing more creativity, more good film, more good music, everything, the whole thing. And of course, the other difference between now and 30 years ago is we have social media. You can't lie publicly anymore like you could 30 years ago.
Oh, I think you can on social media.
Well, you can't. No, I'm not saying you can't. Like, what I mean, let me qualify that. You can't lie without it being seen that it's absolutely a lie, because you can just instantly fact check. You can instantly see that the person's lying, because we're more informed in a way. We have a wider view of people and who they are and how they are. For example, I think the interesting one currently for me is with trans rights. And, you see people saying, suddenly everyone's wanting to be trans and stuff like this. And you're like, well, no, what it is we've now got a society where we're opening up, and we can see how many people in our society are affected by certain issues. One of them happens to be trans. And it's not like this all of a sudden this explosion of the world changing. It's actually, we're just getting a more balanced picture of the world. We're getting to see things that we never really saw, even 10 years ago, I'd say. We're seeing a much more open world now, and I think we're seeing a lot more truth, and I think a lot of people aren't comfortable with it either. And some people are harking to the past and just want to live in the past. But it ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Yeah, this is it. Like, I mean, I think some people are just kicking out at the fact that they've had to learn that some things exist, and sorry, but they fucking do. And it's quite strange, because some people take really weird. I'm a big Twitter guy. One thing I've noticed on Twitter is it's been particularly around film Twitter, that there's been people who consider themselves I've heard them described as the Puritans, but lots of young progressive people who are out here saying that there should never be sex scenes in movies, or there should never be something like that. And these are and they're coming out with the old proper Christian conservative fucking Mary Whitehouse talking points, and they're presenting it with the language of fucking social justice, and it's the stupidest fucking shit. Yeah. Because
I mean, generally, I don't think there should be sex scenes in films, because there is porn now, and there's no way that a film can ever compare and contrast. I think I actually agree with that point. I don't think there should be sex scenes, because they always leave you disappointed. What we could have, I think, is
the flip to it is because there were whole genres that fucking existed prior to instant access to all the pornography. The teen sex comedy market, which sort of there was elements of it in the 70s, kind of blew up in the 80s,
Weird Science
with home media. It sort of kicked off with the whole Porky's thing and that kind of thing, and American Pie was kind of the last wave of it, and your road trips and your things like that, and then those films were made, and some of them were all right comedies, but really they were a vehicle so that young people could get access to
tits. Yeah. But the thing is, as well, I don't know if
that got killed off by pornography, because suddenly there wasn't a thing it wasn't a selling point anymore.
No.
But I think that's exactly what justifies sex scenes and nudity and things in flipping 2022.
Well, you say that,
because
I think you're wrong, man.
Because no one's doing it to sell. No one's doing it just for commercial reasons anymore, because it's not commercially viable.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I watched American Pie again a couple of weeks ago, and oh my God, it looks so dated already. And interestingly, I also, because I just mentioned it before, I watched Weird Science.
Yeah.
And Weird Science, 86 or something like that, looks less dated in a way than American Pie did. And I think what I hope you're alluding to there is the way something like Weird Science did it was slightly cheeky, slightly irrelevant, irreverent, and harmless in a way. But American Pie just looks crass now. It's so strange to see, because I definitely didn't think that at the time.
Yeah.
But when you watch it now, I don't know. It's just not
Like,
it's just not funny anymore. I feel
Weird Science is like what's it called? It's John Hughes, isn't
it? Yes. Is it John Hughes?
Is it?
I'm gonna have to check, aren't we?
Yeah, I've confused myself. It's someone
you
like
keep talking, and I'll check while you're talking. How's about that?
It was someone who was like an established like filmmaker at the time who could like make films, but like things like American Pie and that like particularly the things that came after American Pie, that sort of wave after it.
Yeah, John Hughes.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
I mean, that's John Hughes. That's Sweet 16. That 16 Candles. That's The Breakfast Club. This is a guy who knows how to make entertaining movies for teenagers.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like Weird Science, he thought, I wanted to do something that's like a funny kind of like Twilight Zone influence kind of thing. And like, you know, he was sort of coming from that angle. It feels to me like it comes from a place of a filmmaker who wanted to make something like the sort of like post-American Pie wave, to me, feels like, what should we call it? A guy in a boardroom going like, we need to sell something with tits. Write any film you can around that. It feels like it's coming from a commercial place rather than an artistic place, and that's always going to be more crass, and it's always going to date worse because, you know, like commercial decisions are only ever made for the current commercial climate. So when you take that climate away, you're lacking in the fucking artistic element of it.
But I mean, I suppose the other thing about Weird Science is there was a certain, I know it's so very 80s when you watch that film, but at the same time there was a sharpness to the writing, and that obviously must be John Hughes. But the other thing for me here is that it's the first time we see, or that I'm aware of, that you see the actor Bill Paxton playing Chet, the older brother.
Oh yes, but he's got
real arsehole.
Yeah,
real dick.
He fucking
and it's great. It's magical. Yeah, steals the film, doesn't it? Steals the film. So you know, I suppose you don't. And I know this is something that we've talked about in the past as well, which is now that we have multiplexes, now we have these super franchises like the Avengers and whatever else. You're not seeing anymore those sort of smaller films where it's just a bit of a, you know, it's trying something out. You know, you're just not. Everything's super polished, everything's super clean. There's no rough edges. You know, you wouldn't get a film like Weird Science anymore because in a way it's almost quite experimental. I know it's formulaic, but at the same time, I feel like it's quite experimental. And you're not getting those films anymore. There's no new generation of those films, as far as I'm concerned, that we've in the last few years.
There is, but it comes down to like indie, and like ultimately indie what sells is what sells at the minute. Because I mean, like you mentioned, like these Avengers and these superhero movies. The takeover of them has had like multiple effects. But like on one hand, like, you know, these films always make money, and like fucking like the people I know that like rate these films but do have some kind of opinion are saying like the fucking quality is like definitely falling with like this new Ant-Man and whatever, and like the quality is dropping off a lot of them because they're guaranteed money makers, but they're what's fucking filling up the cinemas, like, and like that is a fucking issue. And the other thing is, like, we get this society thing, which is what I believe, like, sort of led on to the whole sort of a purity phenomenon. Because, like, fucking, I like a bit of grimy shit in my movies. But because there's so much content available and there's so much easy access for it, I think that like, movies have gone the opposite way to how music's gone. Like, with music, when streaming came in, people were, like, people weren't so purist about like the genre that they were into, because like flipping previously, you know, you only had so much money to spend on music, so you just bought the shit that you were into. Whereas with streaming, suddenly you could listen to everything, and now people are now it's just completely normal to be into like many different genres and like know some quite good examples of it. The difference with streaming coming in is because there's so much content, people can only stick to what they like now. So you get a lot of people that are only into superhero movies or only into Disney content, because it's now completely normal that if you like that flipping like content that is designed for children, then you could just grow up and that's the only thing you can ever listen to, that you can ever watch. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're not even watching movies with the film fuck on it, with the word fuck in it, then you shouldn't be on Twitter telling people what you think they should and shouldn't watch, because your gauge is different. You're watching films that don't even have swearing in them. So a lot of stuff is going to seem completely unacceptable to you. Yeah. Whereas
and they're so focus grouped, these films, and they're so everything's so by numbers almost.
Yeah.
And you've hit on a good point there, which is this idea of like, the Disneyfication or the Appleization of film, and it's where you can't swear, you can't say certain words, racial slurs or and things like that, which I think you would normally find in real life said by real people, whether you like it or not. And you can't include those things. They're too polished, they're too clean. They'll never ever be a good film because they are, placing restrictions on what it is they're allowed to perform. And I find, especially with things like the Avengers movies, even though they are visually a stunning watch, and they really are, but it's essentially pop music, like Avengers is like the Taylor Swift of movies. A little bit of a rebellion, look, a few cheeky lines, but actually there's not actually that much in there that's got any meat, got any balls to it. It's just a visual spectacle. It's a piece of pop is what it is. And I've got no problem with pop and pop music and pop art, I suppose this would be pop film. But it's, that's not where the gritty, like you like a bit of grit.
Yeah.
It's not where the grit is it? It's the grit's, well, in fact, no. Where is the grit these days? Certainly not in the multiplexes. He's certainly not seeing people able to go to a cinema and see, have those little chances on a film like Weird Science or something like that. A Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm not seeing them. I'm not seeing that type of movie. They're little quirky ones. Even things like Flight of the Navigator or something like that. You're not seeing those little pearls, which are actually essentially, at the end of the day, they're not that great, but they contain brave little ideas and just trying to do something a little different, just trying to change things up, and maybe they work on a certain level, maybe they don't, but they're certainly not an Avengers movie. I sound like I've got it in for the Avengers, don't I? But I really haven't, because
it's all connected to that kind of thing, and it is that, and there are people that are like so insane about defending this shit on social media. Like fucking they're some oppressed group for liking superhero films.
Well, it's like, the Avengers, the film, The Avengers came out in 2012. So that's 11 years ago now, where we more than a decade has progressed. And you can't tell me that the big movie producers aren't just sticking with a moneymaker. And there's no real creativity there. You're still seeing Robert Downey Jr. doing his Iron Man thing, even though he's died. You're still seeing, don't even get me onto like Spider-Man, because how many times have we got to see the same Spider-Man story? The Spider-Man origin story must never be done ever again. And in the last decade, what's it been done 3 times or something like that? It's just ridiculous. I just find it.
That's it, because you don't even have to do it because fucking, we know what fucking Spider-Man is. Could you imagine if every time they had a different actor for James Bond, it had to be an origin story of him becoming a spy?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You don't have to do that. It doesn't matter that it's a different actor and it's a different set of circumstances. Fucking just turn up on the film, it's like, that's James Bond and he does this shit, and that's it. You don't need the origin every time.
You brought it up. What your honest opinion of where Bond is now?
I have not seen one since what should we call it, Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, and give me your reasons why.
Because I like my Bond stupid and campy.
Okay, can I give you the answer?
Yeah,
I know why the answer is because every single Bond movie is shit. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's like everybody. I occasionally will dip into a Bond just to see where they're at. But the fact is that, talk about flogging a dead horse. You know, it's just like, it is so far past. I don't even know what Bond is anymore. I actually went to the cinema to watch the most recent one, but only because I know that he dies at the end. He dies at the end. James Bond dies at the end of the most recent Bond movie, right? I just, and I'm watching it, and I was just thinking, you know, I actually recently as well saw Dr. No, and I saw Moonraker, and what else I was watching on like late night ITV4 or something like that. Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Right? And again, these are entertaining, but still in a way patchy movies. And I just like, what is it you're trying to perpetuate here? What's the continuity through these films? And I just don't see it, other than there's a character called James Bond, and he happens to be a spy, and he's in about three, maybe five countries in each. There's no what is it?
He's not an interesting character either. Like, is he? Like, but
he's changed now. He's now he's not an alpha male anymore. It's not patting the girl's ass like he did in Goldfinger. There's a nice girl. Now make us a cup of tea. All that sort of stuff. You know, like, okay, oh, great, you've managed to move past that, have you? Well done, Bond. And the new film, you know, I like Daniel Craig, and like, big ups, Chester Crew, and all that. But it's not his fault. I just don't know what is they're all shit. They're all shit. Every single one of those films is shit. And I just got, like, I watch him, and, like, you know, watching Christoph Waltz do his high camp, and it is entertaining to watch. You know, I mean, what is he in Blofeld, or is he what is his character? I don't even know what his. I'm not really interested, but like, that says it all really for me. It's that the whole thing is just, I can't believe they're still going with it, and that people hold it in such high esteem.
I think it's like one specific group of people, and like, my thinking is with Bond is they should just fucking, like, leave it. It's for the Dars, innit? It's for the old Dars that are a bit fucking racist and took the Jubilee too seriously.
And still think England is great.
Yeah. Let them have one fucking thing, like. I mean, like, they
are an entertaining watch. That's the thing. You watch a Bond film. It's quite an entertaining watch.
They should just keep it, like, fucking camp and stupid, because as soon as you get into the reality, which is like, okay, supervillain, fucking what you call it? They're trying to like protect people from what should we call it? Someone who the royal family want them to deal with, this like evil motherfucker on this island that's doing this evil shit. And, like, the reality is that motherfucker is Jeffrey Epstein, and the royal family are over there getting sucked off by infants. So like, you can't, like, make fucking Bond continue to be a good guy and still have that premise if you're going to be if it's going to be realistic. Sorry, that's not logistically doable.
I'm glad they killed him off, because the thing is that he represents the absolute pinnacle of imperialistic Britain. Yeah. And that is so right. I'll just say this as well, right? And I'm going to sound a bit right on. Yeah. But
go on.
And like I was watching something,
Diamond.
and they were talking about racism in America. And then someone said, "Oh, you should come to England. Like, it's better here. It's not as bad." And I'm just like, what are you even on about? Like, this country is still so racist. Like, there's so much racism every day, everywhere. You know, either people aren't aware of it or are aware of it and don't care because they are just racists, and so much of it is tied to this imperial heritage that we have. Yeah,
keep running.
Actually, you could probably grab us another one as well, if that's all right. They're tied to this heritage that we have, where this country can't get past it. It's like it's stuck. It's got a block. And because we've had such highs, we refuse to accept the lows. We refuse to accept that it's finished and it's over. And to remind ourselves of how great it used to be and how to perpetuate, we have James Bond. And James Bond is the pinnacle of all of that. I was actually thinking of Guinness, but there you go.
Okay, I'm on it.
No, that's all right. No, I'm keeping it going. No, and I just think that if anything, like the racism in this country is so, there's so much of it. It's so pervasive everywhere, and then it's almost like you can't even see it. The English have this total denial of the truth of our standing in the world, of the extent of the way that we treat other people in, the racism, just this whole thing about illegal immigrants is, that's classic Bond, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's classic Britain. Let's all stand on Pall Mall and clap the Queen. And then it came together perfectly when Daniel Craig was guarding the Queen, and then they jump out of a bleeding aeroplane or whatever, a helicopter. Yes, ma'am. I mean, just a whole, can't we see what it is, this English cliche of what it is to be English, and I feel like everyone else can see it. Like Americans can see that we're just like a chocolate box with a nice picture on the tin.
Yeah,
that's what we are.
My favourite sort of quote on this is, I was watching the Andrew Schultz podcast, Flagrant 2, and they were talking about sort of racism in Europe, and they're they're like, well, Europe is racist as hell.
Oh, God.
And what should we call it? This is how racist Europe is. The most woke country is the one where they still throw bananas at black football players.
Oh yeah, that's like Hungary and places like that, isn't it? It's
yeah, but fucking that it happens over here occasionally. Except now they have to get fucking. But now they actually get banned. They publicise it on social media, and that's the only reason it's not happening.
Yeah. I just think it's fascinating. And do you know what? Maybe some more movies should be made about why racism comes around. It's like, did you see that that thing about there was a flyer for the British National Party from about 1970, and it had like 5 or 6 talking points on it. And it was literally word for word what we're seeing our government say right now, like where the dial seems to have moved across to this sort of acceptable form of intolerance, towards coloured people or just people who don't want to vote for the current government. It's just. And
this is it, flipping, and I think the sort of trans community's been fucking drawn into that, because
it's trans people's fault that immigrants are nicking our jobs and our turnips.
This is why it's they're flipping, it's the trans people getting targeted, because at that point in the 1970s, Britain is more multicultural than it was but at that point in the 70s, it was there was a lot of places in the UK where you wouldn't necessarily know any people of colour that lived
but it was so much better back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was so much better in the 70s.
Yeah,
we need to go back to those times.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to demonise a community if you don't know anyone that's from that community in real life. So that's why the whole sort of trans thing's a big hot button issue now, is because most of these people that are really outraged about it, they fucking never met a fucking trans person in their entire life, and most of the time it does appear to be that if it was the people who are shouting about it, there are a few people who are fucking just crazy into it. It's like their whole fucking personality now is hating trans people. But there's a lot of people that are that sort of directed hate at sort of that community, just because that's the one that their side's talking about now at the minute. Fucking, if it wasn't trans people, it'd be someone else. They just want something to get behind. It's you've got these groups protesting fucking drag queens reading out to children, pantos don't exist.
Yeah, no, exactly. Isn't it the oddest? Why is it all that stuff is happening now? Why is it? Is it like the last vestiges of irrationality kicking and screaming before we actually manage to make some kind of giant social leap? Or do you think we're just stuck with this for years and years more? Because if you go back to the 90s, I thought, as the Western world anyway, I thought we were making some progress. We get a tolerance of people, or if I put it this way, the right to self-sovereignty. the right to individuality, to be able to be, and that doesn't suddenly mean I'm going to bear arms, USA, or no, I mean like, just to be the person that I am and not have other people hate on you for it. Yeah. I mean, all these people who are like anti-trans, anti-gay. Why the hate? I just don't get why just let people. Surely life is more interesting when we allow people or accept people to be as they are.
It's just people taking sides, and like they'll turn like blind eyes to like when it occurs in their own side, and like fucking like there is like corruption everywhere. But if you look at like people who are like, like fucking calling like like trans people and like other members of the LGBTQIA community, like I don't know all the letters, like they're like calling them groomers or whatever, and then some of the same people be like supporting like Andrew Tate, who's in prison for sex trafficking minors. So like obviously fucking, it's like, so obviously you're not that arsed about the fucking crime because you're willing to turn a fucking blind eye when it's someone on your side committing it. Really, it's just like because like the last thing that you can always fucking accuse someone of and always get a fucking hit like is fucking like calling someone a nonce, because like because like it's like the child's fucking it's like the child's guide to fucking debate,
Yeah.
If
your mum's fat,
well it's
your
like
dad's gay.
It's the extension of Godwin's law, isn't it? Like. Yeah. Flipping like, do you know what Godwin's law is?
Yeah, I do, of course I do, yeah.
Yeah, eventually...
And you're a fucking Nazi as well.
Yeah, eventually, like, in all internet discussions, someone's going to compare someone to Hitler. And, like, that's because, like, Hitler's, like, fucking, like, the archetypal worst thing that people can think of. Like, so if I say you're like Hitler, then if anyone defends you, even if you are right, then I could say to them, oh, so would you defend Hitler as well?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like that with the whole flipping, like, nonce thing. But,
if I can just tell you this, right? So I think it was Stanford University out in America.
But then again...
Hold on. Yeah. Right. Stanford University out in America. So they did this study,
the prison experiment,
where they did MRI scans on murderers, but they picked a certain type of murderer, or not necessarily murderer, but someone who had committed an extremely violent act against either a person of color or a homosexual. And they took those murderers or assaulters, and because now that we have this thing with a real-time MRI scan, so we can see what portions of the brain are being stimulated and at what point, and they showed them various different imagery, including gay pornography, which was cut into the mix, a bit like on Clockwork Orange, when you've got the thing for us there.
The Ludovico treatment.
And they so obviously, if you were to be stimulated by the gay imagery, that would suggest that you have gay leanings, gay tendencies. And out of the 100 people that were tested, so 100 murderers or abusers of racist abusers, homophobic abusers, how many of them were stimulated by the gay sexual imagery? What would you say as a percentage?
I reckon it's going to be fucking high, like.
Yeah? How high?
I'm going to say 70s.
70? 100%. Every single one was essentially a closeted homosexual. Yeah, and they transferred their anger into their denial of their situation into violence, into hate, and transferred it onto other people. Oh, it's their fault. It's not my fault, because they bore a shame on the idea that being gay is wrong.
Yeah, it's like why projection is the most powerful tool, because if there's something that if there's something you truly hate about yourself, then if you recognise that characteristic in others, you're instantly gonna hate them. But and you can lash out at them because they're not you, and you don't have to deal with your internalized fucking identity. And all this kind of shit.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a movie in that.
Yeah. I think there's
internalized identity with Eric Roberts.
Fucking like.
Oh, actually, do you know what? I think this is quite a good point to say. What do you think is the best ever movie franchise? What do you think? What would you say? Just go on, fire it out there. It could be anything. If you don't want to say,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'm going to segue fucking what we were just talking about into the Terminator franchise.
Oh yes,
yeah,
go on.
Yeah. The Terminator franchise has often been held up as proof that because it's like the premise is that the machines go back in time to fuck someone up, so the thing that ends up fucking them up in the future doesn't fuck them up, right?
Yeah.
So, like a lot of people use this as the Terminator hypothesis that time travel can never be possible because eventually someone would go back and kill baby Hitler, right? That's a hypothesis.
Baby Hitler.
They're going to stop the Holocaust.
I know it's like Baby Yoda, but like Baby Hitler.
Yeah,
that's a movie, man.
Yeah, but here's my proposition. Like I don't think we can. What should we call it? I don't think we can legitimately say that that's true because we're assuming that like throughout the history of time between now and the invention of time travel, that's assuming that no one does anything worse than Hitler. So how do we know that if Madeleine McCann wasn't to come to power, she would commit an
atrocity?
Yeah,
unlike the Earth has ever seen before.
Yeah. The like fucking like and Hitler's just way down the list of priorities afterwards. I mean, like she was growing up as an Everton fan. We don't know much. That shit will traumatize you. They were good when I grew up watching them. I can't imagine seeing that as So there we go. How do we know that every child murderer isn't a time traveler on an important mission to save the world?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Oh, now that's let's get this written down. That's a movie. So anyway, you've decided that a Terminator franchise is the greatest franchise. Well,
it was good.
I've got news for you. I've got news for you. Do you know what I think the greatest ever franchise is?
Go on.
Police Academy.
Got the box set, mate. I've got all of them.
Yeah.
Flipping like
will not be bettered. The greatest ever movies. Oh, hang on a minute. Sorry, I've got that wrong. I meant to say Predator.
Yeah.
Predator is the greatest ever movie franchise by a mile. Police Academy played its part in my upbringing. I know that much. Let's say the first four. After that, it really started to get... I mean, obviously, from day one, they were ropey, the Police Academy movies. Yeah. But once we got past four, you're talking... Whoa, a whole new level of ropey.
I don't know. 5's underrated, man. 5's underrated. I was watching it recently. At the time, it was we're Steve Gutenberg. This isn't good, but it's actually like definitely one of the better ones. If you watch like one to. I've got like 1 to 8 on Blu-ray, mate. I've got a lot. If you watch a lot of them back to back, 5's definitely up there with the better ones. And it was kind of like the Halloween 3 of the franchise because it didn't have Steve Gutenberg. Steve Gutenberg thought, I'm going to do 3 Men and a Little Lady. This is going to have excellent franchise potential. Yeah. Thought he was too good for the Academy. He wasn't too good for the Academy. And he's straight back at the next one because they
let us down, but most of all, he let himself down.
Yeah.
By not doing another Police Academy. I think I got up to about Police Academy 6 before I went, no more. I'm not having any more of this. I should have left it at 5. Yeah. And I've gone to 6 and I regret my decision.
Yeah.
Maybe I did a bit of Gutenberg, but from a voyeuristic perspective.
That 6 is the point it absolutely falls off a fucking cliff, and there's lows. And they were using some of the bad words that you're not allowed to say anymore in the good ones, right. It was one thing that they had a gay club sequence in every single film.
Amazing. Yeah. And actually, probably that is the funniest joke in the Police Academy series is the Blue Oyster Bar
Well, the funniest joke isn't any one of the sequences.
Nudge.
The funniest joke is that it's just the one bar that they just keep ending up. The same thing keeps happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of repetition in things. I like those kind of themes. You mentioned the Predator franchise, and
Yes.
and like we've been sort of talking about how what should we call it? Eras change and all that. I think the Predator franchise is actually the sort of like best barometer of what was going on in the various eras at the time, because it's like it's horror, it's sci-fi, but it's primarily, to me, an action franchise. And whatever's going on in like action films at the time is like sort of reflected in the Predator film of the day. So like first one, 1980s. Classic John McTiernan script. We got that's what 80s action heroes were. It was Arnie, it was sweat, it was muscles, it was like manly men, and there's a girl in it somewhere, but it doesn't really matter. So that's what that is. We get to Predator 2. That's early 90s. And we're moving out of the era of the super hard bastard, and we're into like Die Hard. We're into the fucking like guy who's in the charismatic guy that's in over his head. We got like your diehards and that kind of thing, and so we get what should we call it? We get Danny Glover in there.
Yes.
And then you move on a bit later. You've got Predators.
Well, that's exactly the one I wanted to mention, actually, because it's got to be in the last few years. That has got to be one of the most enjoyable films I've watched. I think I like Adrian Brody anyway, but I thought that was an excellent film, because if anything, just going back to what we were saying earlier about being, edgy ideas, right, opening up with people falling from the sky.
Yeah.
What a great idea. And it's whether that's a Predator film or not a Predator film, it doesn't matter. That is a great idea.
Yeah.
And I love the way they carried it through, and it had nice little, just little subtle references back. Unless you were really into the Predator movies, you probably wouldn't get them. But there's so many little references harking back primarily to the first movie. But here's the thing: have you then seen since then what The Predator?
Yeah,
right, which was great. But it was more of a like lol fest. It was more like Back to the Future.
There we go. That's reflected as the era it's in, because
But then have you seen Prey? Have you seen Prey?
Well, in Predators, then we're in the era of everything's a bit more gritty and fucking dark and fucking, it's brooding, it's that kind of thing. When we get to The Predator, then we're in the fucking era of like Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's a wacky team doing silly quips, and it's a bit shit, to be honest. And then when we get round to Prey, that's when we get to where we are now, which is we go back to what made the original and we try and flip it in some way.
Yeah. I thought that was excellent.
Yeah,
I thought
Prey was great.
I mean, I love Predators because you got a taste of the Predator's own world, which I thought was a nice, interesting twist. Yeah. Not done with any of the other films, or you only see it from a distance, whereas here you were right there in Predator land. But Prey, great. It was great, wasn't it? They got just setting it in a Because the other thing is that whole idea of because essentially that apart from Predators plural, they're set in America, and who were the prey in America? The Native American was the prey by America.
They were also the apex predator at the same time. They were the hunters.
Yeah.
And not like that. I like that. That's always been the theme throughout all the Predator films. It's like they just go to a planet and go, right, who's the hardest bastard here? And then that's who we're having a fight with.
There's another thing here as well, which is, for me, for at least 5 years now, the best performances I've seen in cinema, and maybe some of the higher quality TV as well, have been from women. There's not really a male actor who's emerged in the last 5 years that has really impressed me, whereas I could list loads of girls, and I think that's interesting as well. I mean, I know obviously there's been quite a proactive movement to kind of rebalance things, and rightly so. But the thing is that aside from that, I think the people really giving it some welly have just happened to have been women. And I
Do
think
you think it's because like there's like better women characters being written?
very possibly.
Now we do have like more what should we call it, female screenwriters, more POC screenwriters. We're seeing these other things like so. Like
I just think things. People like Amy Adams. I honestly think someone like Amy Adams is the Robert De Niro of our generation.
Really?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I really do. I think she's an absolutely. You've got your surname's got to be Adams anyway, hasn't it? These days to be Rachel Adams as well. I just absolutely incredible performers, and I just really love the naturalism and the absolute shit out of a scene. Just act a scene just so impressive. And I'm not right. Okay, I'm going to say something, and everyone will hate me for it, but I love Jared Leto. He's probably the only actor in the last few years who has properly buttered my muffin. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the fact that he's brave and he makes dramatic choices, and he's probably the only male actor who has interested me. I honestly can't think of another. Maybe Paul Dano to a certain extent, but he's been going for a fair old while now.
Yeah,
he was great from Let the.
I tried to watch Morbius yesterday, man.
Oh, did you?
Oh my god, it fucking stinks. It really fucking stinks.
Why?
There's the thing with these superhero movies, because I do try and like fucking at least give them the time of day. I'm like quite quick to shut them off with this shit. But I did watch the whole of the Batman. Like I thought Paul Dano was really good.
Excellent. That's the best Batman out of all the Batman movies, or all of them. It's by a mile the best
I
one.
felt like it was like two films stuck together, and I think if it was like edited down to two films, and I could just watch the one with Paul Dano Riddler in it, like I think that'd be my favorite shit, because there's all the kind of like Seven, Saw influences, Zodiac Killer influences.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Like I much preferred that to some of the other stuff that was going on in it. But
and also they didn't try and make it too origin-y, did they? It was slightly origin-y, but I liked how they kind of didn't do a Spider-Man on it.
Yeah. This is it. We know who Batman is, like. But I watched Morbius and it fucking sucked. Like, I'll tell you who my favorite fucking male actor is. Fucking at the minute, that's sort of like come to prominence recently. Rahul Kohli.
Oh yeah.
Example. What should we call it? I first come across him in iZombie, which was sort of like a Veronica Mars type thing, and he was like the sort of a British Asian sort of like comedy, like kooky guy in that with his London accent and all that. And like then he started doing stuff with like Mike Flanagan. He's been in a lot of these sort of limited series for Netflix. He was in Haunting a Blind Manor, which I didn't particularly like, but I thought he was very good.
He was good, yeah.
Yeah, and what should we call it? He was also in Midnight Mass. And he was in my favourite film. I mention this every podcast and it's finally available to rent on VOD in the UK, so you could just get on Prime and check this out now. Film called Next Exit, and
yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it floating around. Worth it, would you say?
My favourite film of last year by a long stretch. Like,
right, okay.
It was on at Fright Fest, and I was there for the Friday. It was the first film on Friday, so I was up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get down there in time to watch the first film in Leicester Square from Chester.
Right.
And it's a horror movie festival, things vary wildly in horror movie festivals. It's not all consistent like it used to be. There's some stuff which is just like the most ridiculous slashes. There's some absolute terrible stuff. There's some really deep, powerful stuff. And then there's some stuff that's like kind of horror adjacent, but it's kind of like allowed in, like Quentin Dupieux.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'll have some of
I used to work for.
Yeah. We'll have some of his work down.
It was not very long, because I decided to. I was working for him to doing adverts, and then he decided to make a movie out in that LA, and then I got asked if I wanted to go out and work on his film project, and I said no, and of course it was
Rubber.
No, what was the film? I can't remember what the film was. Yeah. What was that first film he did? Anyway, doesn't matter. I turned it down and I missed out, and I had an opportunity and I blew it. Yeah. And who knows? But that's a bit sliding doors. That I think. But sorry. Anyway, I interrupted you on your next exit tirade.
Yeah, but yeah, like so I got down early to see Next Exit. So like I was thinking like first film at a horror film festival. It's gonna be like it's just gonna be some pretty gnarly wake everyone up kind of shit. But like fucking everyone was emotional at the end of it, man. Flipping like it's very, very, very funny in places, and flipping there's some emotional beats that are a flipping gut punch, and it's essentially a road trip movie, and it's like Raoul Coley and the woman who's acted it are like pretty much carrying the film, and it's a film that would live and die off these performances, and fucking if it didn't have like the best people for the job, it could have very easily become a load of schmaltzy bullshit. But as it is, it's like some like genuinely
brave
very funny
performances, giving a truth. Would you say? Even though it's slasher truth, perhaps. Or,
well, not really. It's not. It's as I say, it's like more sort of horror adjacent, because like the setup is like it's like it opens up on a news report of saying that we have scientific proof that ghosts definitely exist. That's the opening. That's the setup of it.
Right.
So this is it. Like it's like officially on the news. Ghosts are a thing that exists and can communicate. So with people. So the obvious next step is like, okay, so if people die, then they can like keep in touch with their loved ones. So like, we need to figure out how that could happen. So some people, so there's got to be some testing, right? We've got to figure out how we could do that. Like if there's like a certain way of like treating people.
Tangible results.
Yeah. And so that, then we could like set things up in the world so that when your loved ones pass away, they will still be able to speak to you. We want that to happen. So we've got to have some testing. So if you're going to have some testing, you've got to have some volunteers, right? I've done a bit of medical testing myself in the past. Like I've been experimented on a few times, but so yeah, like these two, it's about these two people that have volunteered for this test because like they've kind of like had enough with their lives, and they're kind of like on.
So what, they're going to get killed? Are they? Is that what it is? They're actually going to die, or is it just a? Do you know what? Yeah. Don't spoil it for me because I want to watch it.
Yeah, well. I'm only talking setup here, but yeah, essentially they are going to die, and they have to share a rental car across the country to the place where they're going to kill them.
I see, right?
And it's all part of this, but the whole thing is they are driving to die.
I see.
And it's pretty much just about
real gravity to that, isn't there? Or gravitas, should I say that? I'd say that's the correct wording.
Yeah, but really, it's a road trip movie. And like obviously like so you've got like this massive gravitas attached to a road trip movie. So like I keep thinking about the different ways it could work, and without the performances and the writing, it would have been fucking unbearable.
And you think he's a good actor then, one to watch, would you say then?
Yeah.
Rahul.
Yeah.
What's the surname again?
Coley.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, flipping. He's fantastic. I think if you watch this film, like it's available to rent now on Amazon and that, and you can find it other ways. But I don't do them things nowadays. But yeah, if you fucking support the film, chuck like a few quid on a rental. Show the numbers. Show that people show that there's a bit of love for it, and like if you watch this film, it'll get you.
What's it called again?
Next Exit. I've gone on about it so many times. It's directed by Marley Elfman, who's the daughter of Danny Elfman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
And like, I didn't know that at the time. And like, I don't think I'd have flipping like made such an effort to go and see it if I'd have known that at the time. So
that she was a nepo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fucking nepo baby, like Jesus. This is it. I'd have thought like, oh fucking, I'm not fucking like rushing to see like some fucking like film composers like fucking daughter's fucking film. Like I'd never have done it, but it's fucking brilliant.
It's a tricky one though, that, isn't it? Because, you know, often, not always, but talent can literally breed talent.
Yeah, this is it. Like, I mean, it varies. Like,
there are some sons of and daughters of who are, I think, talented.
Yeah.
So, but there's some who are, you know, absolute freeloaders, shouldn't be there at all.
You've got to divide it up, because I mean, like, you know, if what you call it, I would kind of like, you know, kind of, if you grow up around film sets, because like that's what your parents do, and like, you know, for as long as you can remember, you've been on film sets and know how things work. You know, the advantage of all that technical knowledge is probably going to put you way ahead of anyone who's like sort of figuring it out as they go. But meanwhile, like, just because your dad's David Beckham, that doesn't mean you're going to be a good photographer, does it? Like,
no.
Yeah, I like fucking like if you look at Brandon Cronenberg.
Yeah, great. I was going to say the Sheen children.
Yeah,
like, love it or hate it, I love Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
and I love Emilio Estevez.
Oh, flipping! I watched a fantastic Emilio Estevez film that I hadn't seen since uni the other day. Repo Man.
Oh, Repo Man, that's a great film.
It's awesome,
but not the remake with Jude Law. Never ever shall we speak of that movie, but the original. Now that's Harry Dean Stanton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who was just he for me was now actually. So Harry Dean Stanton is dead now, so you can't libel the dead. So I'm going to tell this story now, which I think you'll be interested to know, which I wouldn't have said before because it would have been libelous. So, during the making of Alien, and Harry Dean Stanton was put up in a hotel on Kensington High Street. Ian Holm lived on Earl's Court Road, just round the corner. So in the morning, they got a car to pick up Harry Dean Stanton, and it went round the corner to Ian Holm's house. And then when Ian Holm, of course, is dead now, so this is even better because I can really tell the truth out of this story. So this is actually from Ian Holm's recollection of the time when he made Alien. And I don't think this has been made public before. But so every morning the taxi, the limo would pick them up at about 7:30 in the morning and take them to, I think it was Shepperton, wasn't it? It was filmed at Alien. I think it was Shepperton. And every morning, without fail, the limo door would open. There's Harry Dean Stanton already in the limo. Ian Holm gets in, and Harry Dean Stanton would go to Ian, would go, acid? And he said, no, thank you, it's all right. And Harry Dean Stanton would do this thing where it was almost like he was like offended, but he wasn't offended. But he'd go, oh, all right then. And he'd neck an acid. He'd have some LSD before they start filming. And that happened pretty much every day during filming. So I would endeavour, or I'd plea for you to watch Alien again. But now watch it again in the knowledge that you know for the entirety of the shooting of that film, Harry Dean Stanton, who is one of the best things in it, he's so natural, it's amazing, is tripping his balls off. And no better example than the scene where he's just about to die and he's in one of the warehouse rooms and he takes his cap off and there's a single drop of water hits him on the head.
Now I'm imagining
right, I mean that's real acting for me. And also the scene, the famous aliens scene of
oh my fucking god! Because that was
he apparently like shat a brick, because of course the first time they shot that scene, I mean, not in the subsequent takes, but the first time they went for it, of course, the actors didn't know that was going to happen, and Ridley Scott had said, just go with whatever happens. And he was tripping, and he got to see that bit, which is John Hurt, who is probably my favourite actor of all time. But watch That scene, watch Harry Dean Stanton. Now that, for me, is acting. That is as acting can be. But now that you know that he was tripping that entire film. Now, what that also suggests to me is, can we consider other movies that Harry Dean Stanton is in to be acid performances? This is something we might need to consider now that the cat has been let out of the bag.
Yeah, well, logical. Funnily enough, I was talking about Harry Dean Stanton on the weekend. Like last weekend, I was up in Manchester, Evolution of Horror. We're doing a screening at an indie cinema of John Carpenter's Christine.
Right.
Yeah, and he's in that, isn't he? And
do you know what? It's been that long since I've seen it. I can't even think.
Oh, give it a watch.
I might. You know what? I might do.
It's like really impressive. I was watching it on the big screen, and it is a great film. I enjoy it. Like, it's one of the ones that kind of like gets like kind of sidelined a bit because like flipping, it's by John Carpenter while he's in his 80s run, and he's also banging out like The Thing and They Live and all this, and like there's so many fucking amazing like iconic films as 80s run. People forget about Christine, and it's written by like Stephen King, but you know it's also. Right. But it's also like, you know, this is around the time when like your Salem's Lots and your Shinings are coming up. So it kind of gets a bit forgotten as a Stephen King one at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's an absolute combination. And like the cop in it is the main cop, the inspector, is played by Harry Dean Stanton. And like fucking, he's like the best.
I thought of that I really am going to have to go back and have a look at that again.
He's the best thing about that film, and I've watched it like a bunch of times, and like, you know, it's just I remember it as a film where Harry Dean Stanton is fucking acing it. But while I was watching it on the fucking while I was watching it on the big screen, it like finally occurred to me for the first time ever that Harry Dean Stanton's only in 3 scenes in it.
Right.
But he's just so fucking good. Like I just like that
steals the film.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like, and fucking, like, I need to watch it again now I know that he was fucking rocking on acid around the time, because I mean, like, what was Alien? They were filming that, like 79?
79 into 80, yeah.
Yeah, this is like 83, like, he has a clean, and fucking he's done Repo Man in the middle, like, and now I'm thinking that the fucking speed that they snort in that might not have been a stage prop. But... I don't think like Harry Dean Stanton is going to have cleaned up his act much in the 4 years. So now I need to watch Christine again after having watched it last week to see if like maybe the acid was giving him the power. Like,
yeah, well, it's. I wonder whether if there were certain phases, we certainly would need to look at other films he made around 79, 80, 81, maybe 82. Well, I mean, what was Paris, Texas? I'm trying to think what year that was. I mean, maybe that was a bit later, but
I think it was just after like that was mid 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like,
maybe it was. Yeah.
So that would have like come like just after these ones we mentioned.
So, how's this 1 year anniversary been for you then, Kinell?
It's been fucking fantastic, and it's been a pleasure to get you back, man.
I know, it's nice to see you, man. It's nice to have a little old natter. I know hardly anything we've talked about today has been about film, but at least we've had one decent, juicy movie gossip tale.
Yeah, fucking hell, it's vibes. And we kept it right at the end, so I'm going to put in the description, we're going to say something exclusive about Harry Dean Stanton. And people are going to have to listen to us fucking talking about fucking, politics for like 45 minutes beforehand. But if you made it to the end, big up you. I have so much love for you. Big up as always. And we're past the hour mark, so I think I'm going to wrap things up about now. Before then, is there anything you want people to get eyes on? Anything you want people to look out for?
Yeah, just go to Bangface in May.
Cushy. Rory will be about. As for me, check my battles as always. The KSC will keep rolling on. It's been a fantastic year. And if you've been here from the start, I got love for you. If you're just here, I've fucking got love for you too. I got love for everybody, baby. It's 3.0 KSC, Kinell Sinister Cinema. Peace!